back to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me for the first time Hubert Parent-Bouchard. He is with Radisson Mining Resources, and he's been with them since 2014. Actually, the company was restructured in 2014. Since 2016, he is conducting corporate development for the company, and prior to joining Radisson, Hubert worked for 7 years in accounting and compliance for a Quebec-based insurance and investment company, and a renowned mining contractor in the Abitibi area of Quebec. He holds a business administration degree from Laval University and is currently completing the graduate micro program of sustainable development applied to the mineral industry at UQAT. And since 2015, Hubert has served as director and treasurer for the Noranda branch of Canadian Institute of Mining. Thanks for joining me again, Hubert, for the first time. Thanks for being with us on this show. I've talked to you many times previously, but it's really good to have you on so you can tell our listeners a little bit about Radisson Mining Resources. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you very much, Jay. Happy to be here.
Yes, and happy to have you tell the story because I think it's a really good one. I should start out by telling our listeners that Radisson Mining Resources trades in Canada under the symbol RDS, and you can buy it as I have down here in the United States. RMRDF is the symbol, RMRDF. 137 million shares. It's around 14.5 cents Canadian today in a pretty weak market. That means it's a hair under about 15 million or 14 million market cap in the U.S. money. The company currently has resources of 427,000 plus ounces of gold, but expecting those ounces maybe not to increase, but the average grade, currently at 5.22 grams per ton, to increase fairly significantly. And I want to ask Hubert about that. Hubert, talk to us a little bit about your company. You're exploring with the O'Brien mine located in Quebec. It has a rich history, a very rich producer, and I'm understanding maybe that the average grade was somewhere about a half an ounce per ton in the past. But can you give us a little bit of the history of the O'Brien mine? And the reason that's important is because you are really exploring right next to the mine and potentially under the mine, as I understand it. But tell us a little bit about O'Brien, its history, if you would.
Yes. So the O'Brien project hosts the former O'Brien mine, which was in production between 1926 and 1957. Historically, it has produced close to 600,000 ounces of gold at 15.2 grams per ton, which makes it the highest grade, the richest mine by grade in Quebec. We're directly in the gold country. I was born and raised in the area, 50 kilometers from the project in Noranda, and we're located on the Larder Lake Cadillac Break, which is a renowned fault, ranges from Val-d'Or, Quebec to Kirkland Lake, Ontario. And our camp alone has produced more than 21 million ounces of gold. We're halfway between two mining towns, which are 100 kilometers apart, directly on the break. The paved highway passes kilometers by the project, and we have the luck of having hydropower on site as well, which is very beneficial for exploration costs. Most of the ground in the area is held by majors in the name of Agnico Eagle.
Sure.
IAMGOLD is also present in the camp with a producing mine. And in Val-d'Or area, you have the El Dorado mining company, which recently in 2017 took over Integra Gold.
All right. So and your infrastructure is it's very solid there. And of course, Quebec is such a pro-mining province too. And you also have the benefit of getting something like 40% of the money you put in the ground back to you from the taxpayers there, I guess.
Exactly. In our camp, we do not qualify for Plan A. We're closer to the cities. But the credit we get back from the government is in the order of 28%. So which makes it very interesting for exploration plays in the area. And I guess the location of the property makes it very interesting in terms of exploration costs. Being halfway between two mining towns, we have access to most of the drillers in the camp, an experienced labor pool in terms of mining contractors, geologists. And over the last 3 years, we completed 45,000 meters of drilling on the project at an all-in cost of around $105 per meter Canadian dollars, which is significantly lower than other areas in Quebec and even Canada.
All right, that's very important, of course, as an exploration company, but I'd like you to talk a little bit about your current resource and why you believe that the resource, the average grade in a new upcoming resource is likely to be higher.
Yes, so the resource package as it stands today is directly contiguous to the former O'Brien, which we also have 100% ownership on. It's composed of indicated and inferred resources. Total amount we're looking at is 427,000 ounces. That's an average head grade of 6 grams per ton. Last October, we hired a new exploration manager. His name is Richard Yemenet. And when he came on site, we restarted drilling already. So when he drilled his first hole, it was an infill drill hole in the resource package. Luckily, we obtained 12.8 meters of 37 grams per ton, and which is very, very high grade. And just above in the hole, we obtained 12.2 meters at 8.7 grams per ton. So having hit high grade gold by the pass with our drilling programs, I guess the first question I got from some investors was, my soul, Hubert, but can you do it again? Can you show more continuity? And I passed along the question to our geologist, Richard, can you do it again? Richard mentioned that from what he was seeing on the drill core versus the resource estimate we had at the time, he couldn't really tie the geology together. So he suggested that we contract a structural geologist in order to find the source of the gold, or at least the structure controlling the high-grade gold mineralization. So that's what we did as soon as you suggested. And we hired the right guy we knew, Ken Williamson. And within a few weeks, he came up with a brand new reinterpretation for our resource estimate, or resource package. And we've been working on that model since. And we're now tying the resource estimate to the model. What the new structural interpretation suggests is that instead of only one preferential orientation for the high-grade gold, which was east-west at the time at the time of the resource estimate, he's now found that we have three preferential minerals orientation, which are east-west, east-northeast, but also, more importantly, east-southeast. And the new structural interpretation, being based on historical drill holes and current data, allowed to define that these southeast structures corresponds to the Lake Emo fault, which is a deep-seated fault, and which is a splay of the Cadillac break. So this is very important because generally in the Abitibi area, when you have such a deep-seated fault, it's a very good place to find gold. And the proof is what we have been identifying over the last few years on 36E and Kewagama areas within the resource package, but also being backed by the historic production of the old O'Brien mine, which again returned almost 600,000 ounces of historic production at 15 grams per ton.
Well, certainly, Hubert, when you're located where you are in the midst of a mining district, as you pointed out, the infrastructure, the labor, the low-cost energy, all those are massive, very, very major factors in your favor. But you also have a number of mills around there that I understand are hungry. They're looking for food. They're looking for mill feed, right? And You mentioned to me that there, and I wasn't aware of this until today, but there just recently, within the last few days, I believe, there was a competitive bid for a deposit there that was owned by Alexandria Minerals, and I think that was a situation where Agnico Eagle outbid Osisko Royalties. Do I have that right?
Exactly. We just saw that, I think, last week. Osisko had made an offer in a new company that they are creating for Alexandria, who owns a nice package directly on the break. And we just saw last week Agnico Eagle outbid Osisko for the package. So we'll see how this will play out in the future. But definitely there is some interest in the area for future output or for exploration potential. And as you mentioned, there are currently 6 mills within 75 kilometers of our project, and the 6 of them are all hungry for feed. 3 of them are owned by a majors company, which we've outlined before in the interview, and 3 of them are owned by juniors and are not treating or are treating barely any ore at the moment. Mm-hmm. So all of these represent very significant opportunities as our deposit keeps growing.
Okay, Hubert, I have to ask you, I bought some shares last week thinking that this week you might have some news. I'm anticipating a higher average grade based on this new interpretation, new understanding of the structure with these cross faults that have actually provided a reservoir resting place for gold. But you telling me now, I think that probably we're going to have to wait until July 7th or 8th or something like that, probably for the new resource to be announced?
That's right, Jay. At the moment, our consultant is working very hard to finalize his interpretation and the resource estimate together. We're in the fine-tuning of this exercise. And the number that we're going to post is a number that we'll have to live with for a few years. And it's also it will also be a very useful tool for the next phase of exploration, which is exploration both vertically and along strike. Mm-hmm. So, being very serious about our work, we want to make sure that we nail the model and we have the exact interpretation right before posting any numbers. It's bad for the timing. I think we have a good gold price, and hopefully the rally is sustained. We're near all-time highs in Canadian dollars here today.
Mm-hmm, sure.
But the gold has been there for a million years, and we have to respect the rock. And I think that once we publish the resource estimate, we will be 100% sure of what we have on hand. And it's something that the listeners should be taking an eye on. Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, Bouchard, do you have, Hubert, you have 427,000 ounces now. You have you just noted that you're going to be exploring along strike and at depth. I know you can't know for sure until the truth machine gives you the answers, but do you think you could double that, possibly get up to 1 million ounces? Theoretically, is there enough of a target to shoot at if you have continuity that you could get to a number of in excess of, say, 1 million ounces?
I think the potential is definitely there. We're in a system of repetition. The proof behind the exercise was to prove that the old O'Brien mine is not unique. Uh-huh. And there's enough ground to hope for 2-3 O'Brien mines on site. So your statement about 1 million ounces is correct. The reality is the O'Brien mine had 14 veins historically, and 3 veins accounted for 90% of the production. Mm-hmm. And these veins happened at the cross-cutting of different structures.
Sure.
So the exercise we're doing is very interesting because it's a new interpretation and it's being backed by the historical production. We've now identified more than 20 ore shoots on our side of the project, and hopefully we get as many ore shoots as possible. But tying the resource with the model, we will be able to add ounces very quickly with the next phase of drilling.
Oh, okay. Hubert, just summing up here now, you're going to have the resource coming out. I should think that if you have, I'm just guessing here, maybe something in excess of 10 grams per ton as opposed to the 6 that you talked about, that should make a splash for the stock. I would think people would start to pay more attention. But will you have drilling going on throughout the year yet that we might see some drill results on an ongoing basis later in the year, possibly?
Definitely. We're already permitted for a 20,000-meter drill program, which we plan to start as soon as we receive the resource estimate. Why are we waiting for the resource estimate? The reason is because within the resource estimate, we'll be able to identify the highest grade ore shoots. And then we will be by tying the resource to those ore shoots, we will see the highest grade zones, and we will be able to target those zones very quickly.
All right, we'll have to leave it go. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be very exciting. It's certainly, I put my money where my mouth is, that's for sure. Thank you very much, Hubert, for being with us today, and we'll look forward to keeping track of this story on an ongoing basis. Thank you so much for joining us today.